Hi, I'm Chris Ford, and I am the director of the North Carolina Institute for Spiritual Direction and Spiritual Formation. And I'm here with Mary Kay. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi there, I'm Mary Kay Glazer, and I am on the leadership team for the Institute, working in both the spiritual direction and the spiritual formation arms of the Institute. And we're talking today about trust in a spiritual direction relationship. It's part of a series that we're doing on spiritual direction, so that you might find some help in knowing how to choose a director that's a good fit for you. And when it comes to trust, we've had conversations, you and I, Chris, about how do, like, trust is important, but how do we know that we trust somebody? Like, how do we know that that foundation trust is there? And one of the things I was saying was that, we have to have a sense in that first meeting or two that there's the possibility for deepening trust, because ideally in a spiritual direction from relationship, we're sharing from the deepest part of our soul. And you were saying something that was really interesting about early on. It's trusting your gut.
Yeah, it is. I, I tend to be a pretty trusting person, and so I go in with the idea that this person is trustworthy, but clearly that builds over time, and but it's still a gut sense, either way, one way or the other. And I think for me, my ability to take that session to a deeper level happens also over time as that's building. Um, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that especially early on for me, what I'm looking for is, can I trust this person to hear my story and not tell their story? Can I trust this person to hear my story and ask good questions or give me good reflections back about what I'm saying? Can I trust this person to be led by the Spirit in like doing some in the moment discernment about what to ask and what to say? Um,
Yeah. As you're saying that, the thing that keeps popping up for me is, can I trust this person to hear me and not judge me?
oh, absolutely.
Um, and that will come by what I see in their face or don't see in their face, and maybe certainly around the questions and so on. But for me, that's just a big thing: is can I trust that I will not be judged?
Absolutely. That's a really important one. And not just in their face, but kind of like in their body language as
True.
well.
Yeah.
I know for me as a director, sometimes I hear things that bring up judgment in my mind. And my prayer immediately at that time is to stay as open as I can and to ask God to protect the person from anything in me that would indicate that I'm struggling a little bit with judgment. Um, so that, but I put it aside so that I can come back to it and deal with it later.
Right. And I think the thing that I try to remember in those same circumstances, that I'm called to be I'm called to be Christ in this room with
Yes.
this person. And Christ certainly wouldn't be judging. So
Right.
I have to ask and pray to be the conduit.
That's right.
Not have my stuff flow in.
That's right. That's right.
But that trust is I think we're doing this as the first in the series, because if it's not there, then nothing really works.
No.
Just nothing.
No. If for somebody who is not, so I'm also pretty trusting. For somebody who doesn't have that as a default, do you have any suggestions for how they might move through the process? Like they might have to meet more often with the person before they know that that trust is there. But what suggestions would you have for somebody like that?
the first thing that came to my head when you said that is, I hope that the person would be able to say, I struggle with trust.
Mhm.
And so I'm not going to immediately be able to open my heart to you because I just don't do it that way. It's going to take me a while. I've had things in my life or whatever they might say, but I think that is one of the most important things you could do, is just to put it out there that I don't do that very quickly. And I think that will help the director be able to respond to you in a way that will be affirming of that trust. I think the other thing that I would suggest is that if I know that I'm not a person that trusts, and I know that where that comes from, not everybody does, but often we do, be able to just remind myself before I go into that spiritual direction session each time that who I'm meeting with, that this is not whoever is in my history or not the circumstance, and really try to, at least my imagination, put that aside. But I think just the awareness that this is a different person in a different situation helps that from just automatically flowing into the direction session. What about you? Do you have thoughts about that?
I'm thinking of somebody that a few people that I've seen in direction who have been, they have they've come in trusting, and they have things that sort of trigger a question about, can I really trust this person? So can they really trust me? And when those things come up, what's happened is with these people who I believe, because of this are very, fairly spiritually mature, they have just said, because of what happened, we'll describe something that happened in a previous session and say, and that, some version of, and that triggered my questions around, can I trust you? And so similar to what you said at the beginning, even ongoing, if it's a person that
Right.
that has those trust issues, and something in a session triggers that, then it can be helpful to bring it to the director. And if
Right.
you feel like you can't bring it to your director, then maybe that director is not somebody who's worthy of that trust.
Oh, good point. Really good point. Yeah. That's like a huge red flag, I would say.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, like there might be some qualms about it, like, how is this going to go? But I'm going to do it anyway because of the, sort of the arc of the relationship and the history that we have. But if there is dread or like, I don't think I can do this, then there's, that's like you said, a red flag.
Yeah.
Pay attention to that, because it could be telling you about, like maybe this person, you can't trust this person. The other piece about trust, I think that I didn't even think about when we started this conversation, because I feel like it's just so taken, I take it for granted, is confidentiality.
Oh, yes, of course.
That my spiritual director is not going to tell any identifying characteristics about me to anybody.
Right.
And there was one other thing that and I know that for me, when I meet with directees, as like especially if we're in the same community, I will say, if we meet out and about, I will, and we're introducing each other or something, I'll just say that I know you from different, events in the community. I won't say that you're coming to me for spiritual direction. And I'll tell directees, you're free to say anything you want. You can tell people if you want that that you see me for spiritual direction. that's fine with me, but I'm not going to initiate that in any conversation.
Right. Yeah, yes, absolutely. And yes, confidentiality is so basic that I didn't think about it either until you brought it up, that of course that's part of trust, is believing that that person is going to keep confidentiality in all ways and times. Yeah.
Anything else to say about trust before we close?
I don't think so. I think we've covered that pretty well. So just to say to those who are listening that we're going to be talking about other aspects of a director in other segments, and we hope you'll benefit from watching. Thanks.
Thanks
Bye.
for joining us. See you next time.